right, finally, it has kicked. It has done what it should have done 9 minutes ago. Ah, Jesus, sometimes you just deal with some things that you can't explain. So, yes, from all indications, looking like I am good to go on YouTube. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm good to go on YouTube. I just wanted to reflect on my end. Let's see. Okay, yes, I'm good to go on YouTube. But guess what? My phone is my other phone is telling me rubbish. But I have confirmed that I'm good to go on YouTube. Okay. All right. So I think we can start now. We can start. How is everyone doing? Sorry for starting about 10 minutes late. Um, Network and technology doing what technology does. I used to get worked up about technology when trying to do my live streams. Till one day I tried watching a TV show, and you know, even the TV station was struggling with network and all that. So I've just accepted it that it's one of those things that can happen. And when it happens, it happens. You just try and find a way. But right now I'm live on YouTube. I'm also on WhatsApp. So if any disconnection occurs on either end, just switch to the other one. If you're on YouTube, please check the description. You would see a link to the WhatsApp page in case anything happens to the YouTube live stream. Okay, so I like to always have two options ongoing. If one disconnects, you switch to the other, and both of them are on two different networks. The amount of plans I have just fighting network. My two devices are on two different networks. So if one network does somehow, the other one that is on WhatsApp or YouTube, that one will still be ongoing. What can we do? What can we do? But anyway, we're good to go. Now let's begin. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Max. All right, this is Dr. Max's Health Support Community, where I give you health and wellness tips related to your blood pressure, weight loss, mental health, and diabetes. And I also answer general questions. If you have any question related to your health, or you have a medical question you've just not been able to get an answer to, please feel free at any point in time to drop your question in the comment section on YouTube, or if you're on WhatsApp, drop your question on the group. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about, I will look at your question and I will answer you. Okay, that's what this platform is meant for. That said, let's go into what we're supposed to talk about today. Oh, by the way, if you have not shared my YouTube page with your friends or with other people, please share with someone. And if you are on WhatsApp, you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. I really want to find ways to improve on my live stream, but there are some options that are not available to me until I get my subscribers to a certain number. Very close. I just need about 20 more people to subscribe, and then I'll be able to really explore more options to make my live streams much more relatable and more engaging, and generally easier without stress, right? Because this is a bit stressful now. Okay, so please, if you've not shared this group with anyone, share it with someone and let them subscribe to my channel. Let them join the group. We share health tips here. Everybody needs health tips. Another thing I should mention, whatever you learn here, please feel free to share the knowledge with someone else, right? It's not just for you. There are other people around you who probably are not on this group. Have conversations with them. You can get them to join the group, but let them know what you have learned, all right? Share the knowledge. And now we start. We'll be discussing the 10 biggest lies about hypertension. I've heard a lot of funny things, and I just felt it's time to address those lies. So, all right, that's not the purpose. Okay, it's not for you to say doctor or show that you have now learned something, and the doctor attending to you does not know anything. That's not the purpose. Okay, it's for you to have some knowledge to help yourself, and then you can engage the doctor in conversation to properly understand. So please, after this, don't go and fight. And let's start. Number one, If you start blood pressure drugs, you will be on blood pressure drugs for life. I hear it a lot. It's a common fear that people have. Oh, I don't want to start blood pressure drugs because I heard that once you start, you have to be using it for the rest of your life. That is not true. That is not factual. Okay? That is not factual. It is not true. It is not true. It depends on the situation. It depends on the person. Biology varies from person to person, number one. Number two, it depends on the cause of the person's high blood pressure. In fact, that's a major point. It depends on the cause of the high blood pressure. Someone who is having high blood pressure because the person has a bad sleeping habit, the person might take drugs for a while, depending on how high the blood pressure is. But if the person corrects this habit, the person should be fine. There is no rule that says the person will continue for life. So that is just a simple example, a very simple example of a situation where you start it, but you are not going to use it for life. So the cause of the high blood pressure matters. Number three, that will determine the stage. That's why I always advise, make sure you check and know on time if your blood pressure is high or well controlled. There is a level to which the blood pressure will get to where the damage has been done, and the kind of damage that has been done makes it hard for the body to naturally control the blood pressure. Under normal circumstances, your body can control your blood pressure. Okay, but there is a kind of problem that would have happened that your body would now lack the capacity to control it. In that situation, yes, this kind of person needs to be on blood pressure drugs for life, especially if it has gotten to that stage. All right, the damage has gotten to a stage where the body lacks the ability to control the blood pressure. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's why we always say check early. If you need to start taking drugs early, not that you wait till the problem has gone far. Okay, so you can see how I've been able to explain that it's not a one size fits all situation. The factors that determine whether you use blood pressure drugs for life or not depend on your biology, personally, the cause of the high blood pressure, and the stage of the high blood pressure. These are factors to keep in mind. Generally speaking, the earlier the better. Lie number two is that hypertension has no cure. This is a lie, right? Hypertension has no cure. It's a lie. However, I am going to be very cautious about calling this a lie. Remember why I said you should not go and start fighting your doctor. Hypertension doesn't have a cure in that there is no one single tablet that you can take that will just destroy hypertension and that will be the end of it. However, there are things that you can do, which in some cases would include drugs, but in many cases may not include drugs at all, and the high blood pressure will be gone completely. I cannot emphasize it enough. There are cases where there are just things you need to do that will eradicate the high blood pressure completely. All right. So the mindset that high blood pressure has no cure, you now believe, no, blood pressure is high. Hey, God, that's the end of life. No, I'll be managing. No, no, no. One thing that you must keep in mind, however, is that the blood pressure going up is a sign that you need to start taking action. Okay, that you need to start taking the necessary steps to manage the blood pressure and bring it back down to normal. Okay, that is the most important thing. The question you should be asking is, okay, what are the things you need to do? But the idea that it cannot be cured, that's like saying HIV, for example, is an example of a disease that has no cure, right? Because no matter what you do, the HIV virus is still there. But for hypertension, there are things that you can do that your blood pressure will normalize perfectly. Okay, perfectly normal. So it's important to make this clarification. We're talking about diseases that have no cure. Things like HIV, yes, no cure. But hypertension can be cured. All right. I hope everybody understands this. Um, I don't know why the word is not coming to me. There's a word that I'm trying to use. So I hope everybody understands this differentiation that I'm trying to make anyway. That's the best word I can use. The next lie is that when you use your blood pressure drugs, once your blood pressure gets to 120, over 80, you stop. Once the blood pressure gets to 120 over 80, you stop. That is not true. Okay? That is so not true. For clarity, and you might want to write this down, if you know anyone who's using a blood pressure drug, the point at which they need to stop using the drug, not stopping forever, but they need to stop and then go and see a doctor, is when the BP gets to 100 over 60. If the blood pressure is coming down, and it starts coming down to 100 over 60, they need to stop that drug and then see a doctor. It is at that point that it becomes dangerous. But above that, it's still fine. Keep using your blood pressure drugs. Okay? The reason why you cannot stop at 120 over 80 is that 120 over 80 is the expected normal blood pressure level. However, it is not very far away from 130, 135, where it now starts getting counted as high blood pressure. So for someone who is already using drugs to bring down the blood pressure, the fact that you've gone to 120 over 80 does not mean that, oh, all is now fine. Because the blood pressure can, remember, this is someone who already has high blood pressure. So what's to say that the blood pressure cannot shoot up just a little bit again and then go back to 135 or keep going even higher than that? Okay, so that's why you can't use 120 over 80. All right, nothing will happen to you if you take your BP drugs at 120 over 80. But when you see 100 over 60, if you see 100 over 60, please don't take the drug, go and see a doctor. Very, very important. Next, number 4, high blood pressure is hereditary. Can be transmitted from father to son, from mother to son, from father to daughter, and all that. No, it is not. Let me be very, very clear about it. It is not hereditary, and let me explain so that you understand again, and you will not go and start arguing with a doctor in the hospital and say, no, I joined one live stream and Dr. Macaulay said this, that. I am not telling you to go and fight. This is what I mean when I say high blood pressure is not hereditary. I mean that, for example, an example of a disease that is hereditary is a genetic mutation. For example, let's take albinism, right? You would notice that if there is an albino in a family, chances are that one of the children will be an albino. That's a genetic mutation. All right, it is transferred genetically. Okay, now what happens with hereditary diseases is that once that gene, as long as that gene is transferred into that child will present with that disease. Okay, as long as it is transferred. But in high blood pressure, yes, there are genetic mutations that can put you at risk, but that's the difference. They only put the person at risk. So if someone's father has high blood pressure, yes, the genetic mutation that might put the child at risk can be transferred. However, there is no guarantee that that child will also have high blood pressure. Okay, what would happen is that that factor can now work together with other factors. So let's say that child starts to grow up now, does not sleep well, does not rest well, does not do exercise, starts gaining weight, starts taking alcohol. All of these factors will now start coming together, and then they will now see their brother, the genetic problem that the father has already put there, and say, okay, let's all work together to give this person high blood pressure. Do you see the difference? Okay, so a genetic change transmitted directly down that definitely will present in the disease is what we call hereditary disease. That's one that you say you transfer from father to son. But for high blood pressure, yes, a genetic change can be transmitted, but it does not guarantee that this person will have it. Why am I emphasizing it? Because there are some people who have just told themselves, well, my mother had it, my father had it, so I'll definitely have high blood pressure. There is nothing to worry about. I'll just be living my life anyhow. No. It's important that you keep in mind that irrespective of the fact that some family members might have had it, there are still things you can do that you will not have high blood pressure if you are taking the necessary steps. That is where I am going with this. So don't just rest on your oars and say, well, it's a family thing. There's not like, and then you keep taking alcohol, you don't rest well, you don't sleep well, you are stressed, and then you just say, oh, it's a family thing. Okay? It's important to make that differentiation. Next is that high blood pressure drugs can destroy your liver, affect your kidney, it will affect your health, and all that. Let me clarify. Let me clarify. Okay? I will not give you a blanket yes or no answer, and this is why. Every medical professional will tell you this. All drugs are potential poisons. Every drug is a potential poison. Every drug, including agbo. That because agbo is a local drug, whether you like it or not. Yes, it is. It is basically, in fact, agbo is even more dangerous because at least for drugs that are prepared in a pharmacy, they've removed all the unnecessary ingredients and they focused on the ingredients that they want. In agbo, they just mix all the herbs together, so all the ingredients that you don't even need are inside the agbo, very potent. Yes, even agbo is a potential poison. So all drugs are potential poisons. However, for blood pressure drugs, a lot of extensive work has been done to ensure that the risk to a healthy organ is almost insignificant. Listen to my words very well. The risk to a healthy organ, and this is where it is important, not everybody can use all drugs. Okay, so someone who already has a liver problem or a kidney problem will definitely need to consult with a doctor before starting certain blood pressure drugs so that the drug does not worsen the problem, because this person's liver or kidney is not healthy. Okay, and that is where we say potential poison. So in an unhealthy state, yes, all right, you would definitely, in fact, non-negotiable, you must consult with a doctor before you start a blood pressure drug if there's a liver or kidney problem. When they do studies on these drugs, they tell you for liver problem you need to do this test before starting the drug. For kidney problem you must do this test before starting the drug. They are there, and it applies to even almost every other drug. A lot of drugs out there, whenever there is already an unhealthy state, there are special considerations that must be made. But for a healthy person, no. Okay? No, it does not destroy your liver, it does not destroy your kidney. I will also now add that people react to drugs in different ways. Believe it or not. And you can go around and ask, do you know that there are some people who cannot take your common paracetamol? You'll be surprised that there are some people, they can't take it. They react in a certain way. Drugs that you think everybody can take, there are some people who can't take. There are people who struggle to take anti-malaria tablets, right? But you take these same tablets and nothing happens to you, but they will tell you that if I take this tablet, this is what will happen, right? So people react in different ways, and to be honest, right now there's no way to know how you will react to a drug. However, it cannot be that you take a drug once and then it's go and destroy your liver like that. No, it's not possible. Okay, that's to take a drug at the right dose. It is not. It is very. It's more or less impossible. Okay, unless there's an underlying issue already. So that's something important to put out there. So no, for a healthy person, it does not destroy your health, does not affect your kidney or your liver. Next question, next point. I think I'm on point 6 now. I'm on point 6. If you check your blood pressure and it is high, it means you have hypertension. Listen to my words again. And this is something that, please, you know, again, I'm not encouraging you to be held to fight with your health professional, with your doctor, with your nurse. But I'm encouraging you to have conversations. So you go somewhere, your nurse just checks your blood pressure. Say, your blood pressure is high. Say, you have hypertension, just like that. And you know, okay, you know that you have never, and you've been checking your blood pressure from time to time, maybe once a month, once in 2 months. You have never gotten that kind of blood pressure reading before. Don't fight, but explain to the person that, oh, I check my blood pressure regularly. Um, I have never gotten this kind of number before. Can we check again? You see, no fighting. Can we? And this checking again is not going to be immediate. You will relax for about 5 to 10 minutes and then check again. Why? Why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Please note. Number one, depending on the machine, you might be getting a wrong reading. Number one is that the machine might be faulty. Yes, the machine might be faulty and give you a wrong reading. Number two is that the cuff size might be wrong. If you have a very fat hand and they're using a wrong cuff size for you, you can get a wrong reading. The cuff is that thing that they wrap around your arm. So if the cuff size is wrong, that might be the reason you are getting a wrong reading. Okay. Number three, depending on the machine, the person might be reading the values wrongly. Now, what am I talking about? If you have someone who's using the what's the speak the see me, I forgot the name. I think it's the, yes, analog speak. Yes, signal manometer. Thank you. Right, and the person is not using the digital one. The person is using the analog one. The analog one is the one where they will put wear a stethoscope and then put the drum of the stethoscope on your hand in your cubital fossa and then start listening to it. If that's the one the person is using, they could be listening to, let me just say, they could be listening to it wrongly. I don't want to say they could be listening to the wrong thing because it's not as if they should be hearing music. But they could be listening to it wrongly and they'll be telling you a wrong blood pressure reading. So please, if you are sure of your blood pressure range, you check regularly. Okay? And someone is checking, and for the first time you are seeing a value that you don't understand, you've never seen before, please don't just accept it like that. Tell the person to check it again after you have waited for about 10 minutes. Another thing is, maybe you were rushing down. Maybe you've had a stressful couple of days. Okay, these are factors to consider. Maybe you did not sleep well overnight. These are genuine factors to consider. I will, however, add that while we are going to consider these factors, you must balance it. If you're having a situation whereby from time to time you get high readings and you know that you recently did not rest well, you had a very stressful period, yes, on one hand, that's the reason for the blood pressure being high. On the other hand, the blood pressure is still high, right? It is a reality. The only thing I am saying here is that it does not bestow upon you, it does not confer upon you, it does not, impose upon you a diagnosis of hypertension. And we must understand the difference. So blood pressure can be high. Yes, true. So you are not fighting the reading. So all these things I've said, it could be possible that yes, the person checked, the machine is not, it does not have a problem, the size that they are using is the correct size, everything is fine. All of these are true, and yet the blood pressure is truly high. You are not fighting with the blood pressure machine. You are not fighting with the person that checked it. Because if it is high, it is high. However, it does not mean that you have a diagnosis of hypertension. Okay? You must understand that. Why? Because if this is the first time you are seeing that, it means that you need to go and take urgent steps to reset yourself and then continue monitoring. It is with your continuous monitoring that you will now know whether the diagnosis applies or not. Okay, but one reading is not enough unless the blood pressure is so high, and in fact it will be so high that you will know that definitely this must be hypertension. And what do I mean? If already you did not used to check your blood pressure before, you did not use to check. Remember, I said if you know your blood pressure range, you can have this conversation. Or if you don't know, don't just be. I remember one patient that I told, we checked her sugar, we went for an outreach, and we checked her sugar, and the sugar was high. And I also looked at her, she was quite obese, so yeah, I told her that, madam, your sugar is high, and you know, your weight too is an issue. And then she made it look like I was the one swearing for her, or I was the bad person here. Like, I did not invent your blood sugar being high. Like, I did not go and cook it somewhere. I checked your sugar and it was high. And of course, typically she started with the usual God forbid. Before you know it, she started getting angry at me, as if I'm the one that made her sugar high. Please don't go and do that. Don't fight the values. All right, just be aware. So, and obviously, this was definitely a woman who had not checked her sugar before. Anyway, I just told her, fine. Well, it's your sugar. It's not my sugar. To be honest, Abi, it's not my sugar. It's your sugar. So whatever you want to do with it is up to you. But I've told you that your sugar is high. I need to go and use sugar drugs. So if you like, use. If you like, don't use. And that's where I left the conversation, right? So she did not know her normal sugar range, and she was arguing and fighting with me. So if you want to be able to, quote unquote, politely challenge the reading that has been given to you, you must know your range, and you must be able to say you've checked it at least in the last 2 weeks, okay, 2 weeks to a month. So please, let's just bear that in mind. But just one reading for the first time in your life, and you've been checking in the past, is not enough for a diagnosis. Point number 8. Yes, people often say that if you start blood pressure drugs now, you'll be dependent on blood pressure drugs for life. That is a lie. That is a lie. Okay. I initially addressed the point of using blood pressure drugs for life, right? Now I want to address the point of depending on it for life. So people often believe that once you start the drug, you will now end up depending on it till you die. And the logic they are using applies for pain medication. For pain medication, yes, you can upregulate for pain medication, where the more you use pain medication, the less they work for you. Then you need to keep depending on them and depending on them, and you need to keep taking more and more. That is the mindset people are using to judge for blood pressure drugs. But no, it doesn't work that way. For blood pressure drugs, it's the exact opposite, right? And I've said it here before. Every time the blood pressure is high, it causes damages. Damages where? To the kidney, damages to the blood vessels, and damages to the heart. You see, these three things I've just mentioned, damages to these three organs make it harder for your body to control your blood pressure. So if anything, chances that you will make it easier for your body to later have the capacity to control your blood pressure, it will be that you are currently using drugs, so that you don't allow those damages to happen and then make it almost impossible for your body to naturally control your blood pressure. Remember, like I said before, there is no rule that if you start BP drugs, you'll be on them for life. There is no general rule like that. Okay? So, if you start, and obviously, in most situations, for people with high blood pressure, more often than not, there are the factors that you need to address that don't even have anything to do with drugs. Once you can start addressing them, see, the problem most people have is that they cannot address these issues. Why? Because you have to wake up 5 a.m. to go to work. You probably slept around 12. You got 5 hours of sleep. Why would the blood pressure be high? And you are doing that from January to December. But you don't really have a choice right now, because you need to go out and make money to pay bills. That's where we say, okay, fine, use the drugs while you are still struggling to be able to make these changes. Everybody is hoping that one day you become a CEO and you can wake up at 10 a.m. and decide, okay, yes, now I'm ready to go to work, right? But you don't want to a situation whereby when you get to that level, already, even if you sleep for 100 hours, the blood pressure will not come down. So you start while you are working towards it. And I must emphasize, it is not that, well, since I can't do anything, let me just forget and just be using drugs, I'll be fine. No, it's that you are working towards all those changes. The little exercise you can do, The ways you can control your salt. Salt. I cannot even emphasize salt. I've said salt so many times, right? If you are if you have high blood pressure, no other person should be able to use your food because your food should be almost tasteless. Your tongue will get used to it, but other people will taste your food and spit it out. Okay, so all these changes you are making them little by little, but you cannot make them overnight. To use drugs. By the time you get to a level where you can now fully implement, and make no mistake, there are full-blown non-drug therapies for high blood pressure. Full-blown, no drug, and they will help you control the blood pressure. It is hard, very expensive too, right? So what we are saying is that before you get all those resources in place, you start using your drugs. So that by the time you get the resources in place, no damage has happened, and you can implement changes that will help your body control naturally. Okay. Number 9. Okay. Yes. A lot of so what we have, I've heard some nurses, and this one, please feel free to challenge any nurse that tells you this. A nurse who tells you that, oh, when your blood pressure is high, use the drug. Then, once the blood pressure comes down, you stop using the drug. Please challenge that person. This one, I encourage you to challenge the person. It's a lie. Okay? It does not work like that. It's not like paracetamol that you take for headache. When you're having a headache, you take paracetamol. When the headache goes, you stop paracetamol. No, it does not work that way. Okay? That is not how to use blood pressure drugs. You use the drugs based on a prescription, and then you go back for a review. You go back to see the doctor for a review to decide and to determine whether you need to continue the drugs. And the doctor knows how to evaluate you. But you see, that perspective or that perception that, oh, I check my blood pressure, it's 140, or it's 150, there's that drug. Let me quickly take the drug. Let me quickly take the drug. So that my body, no, you are not helping yourself. You are not helping yourself. You know why? Because you are lucky that you checked the BP and then you saw that it was high, and then you decided to go and take the drug. There are people who I have seen patients who would swear that they always see around 130, 135, 140, and whenever it gets to like 140, that's when they go and take the drug. And the day they landed in the hospital, it was 200. And I asked them, oh, when last did you use the drug? They said, maybe like 2 weeks ago, I checked and it was just, around 140. I decided to take the drug. And afterwards, it came down, so I said I was fine. So, the fact that you check and it's high is a reminder, yes, to use the drugs. But even without checking, or when you check and it's still 120/80, it's as long as it does not drop to 100/60. Okay, as long as it does not drop to 100/60, please continue using the drug. There is no science that can predict how high a person's blood pressure will go. And I must emphasize that science currently cannot predict it. It can go from 135 all the way to 180 to 200. It can jump like that. Yes, it happens. And while we think it's a jump, in reality, it's probably not a jump. It was going up little by little, but you are not checking your blood pressure every second, so you don't know that it's going up. Okay, so it's important that I point that out. You don't listen to anyone who tells you that, oh, it's when your blood pressure is high that you should take the drug. That is a lie. And the last one that most people are not aware of. Okay, um I actually have like two or three. I want to pick which one I'll use as the last one. I'm trying to decide. Okay, let me just use this one. So the last lie that most people believe about blood pressure drugs is that all you have to do is take your drugs. That's all you have to do. And what do I mean? You go to a hospital, ask the doctor. If the doctor is telling you that your blood pressure is high, ask the doctor, okay, is this, and you might want to write this down. You might want to write this down. Especially when a doctor just gives you drugs and tells you that you should go. Okay, I think I'll add a bonus point after this. So ask the doctor to listen to your heartbeat if he has not listened to it. Ask him if your kidneys might be involved or might be related. Ask him if he has evaluated, and by your kidneys, I don't mean anybody needs to go and do any special test. Ask him that, do you have any reason to think this might be related to my kidneys? Do you have any reason, do you think it might be related to my heart? And then, of course, cholesterol is there, sugar is there. Those are the four things: heart, kidney, cholesterol, sugar. Okay? Anyone who is treating you for high blood pressure and has not been able to evaluate these 4 points I have made, please, you need to ask questions. You need to tell them about it. Okay? You need to bring it to their knowledge. Why? Because so many people have underlying conditions and they are struggling with 5 drugs, with 4 drugs, with 3 drugs. And really, if they could just treat the underlying condition, they don't need to be on drugs. Like, just treat that cholesterol that is high. Cholesterol treatment sometimes can just be 3 months. Just treat it, and the person is fine. The person does not need blood pressure drugs. All right. But the lie that everybody believes, of course, the BP is high, you take drugs forever, or you don't need to do any tests. Once we check that your blood pressure is high, it's high. That's the lie, right? Checking that the blood pressure is high is just one step. Knowing and being able to understand why it is high is a much more important step that should follow. So please don't just let anyone stop at telling you the blood pressure is high. And the point I was going to add, hey God, oh, it's like it has jumped out of my head. I was going to add a bonus point. Ah, it has jumped out of my mind though. I didn't write it down. I didn't write it down. Oh well. I'm very sure when I remember in another conversation, I'll tell you. I don't know, it jumped out of my mind. So these are the 10 biggest lies. Number one, that you must be on BP drugs for life is a lie. That you stop taking BP drugs if the blood pressure is 120/80 is a lie. You should only stop at 100/60 and then see a doctor. Number three, that hypertension has no cure is a lie, because there are things that you can do that will bring down your blood pressure and keep it normal as long as you maintain those things. And I made the differentiation in comparison with HIV, which truly has no cure. But for hypertension, there are things you can do that will control that blood pressure permanently. Um, then that hypertension can be transferred from father to mother, I mean from father to son, from mother to son or things like that. No, it does not work directly like that. Whoever in the family has high blood pressure, and even if that genetic change or that genetic factor was transmitted into the child, other factors must come into play before the person can truly trigger hypertension. So it's not straightforward like that. Um, uh, one high blood pressure reading is enough to diagnose you of hypertension. That is a lie. Then I think that was the seventh one. Use BP drugs only when your blood pressure is high. That is also a lie. Um, just checking your blood pressure is enough to identify, or is enough to manage hypertension. That is a lie. Just checking the blood pressure reading is not enough. You need to add tests. So I think I've mentioned everything. In conclusion, one thing I'm going to say is there is the syndrome of um, checking your blood pressure too often, and nowadays there is advice is starting to come up that you should not check too often. Why? Because that can lead you to anxiety. If you are doing everything you need to do, for someone who is managing high blood pressure, you can check every 2 days, every 3 days, as long as it's controlled. Just check maybe 3 times a week, and if it's controlled, you are fine. The only time we recommend that you check every day is when the blood pressure is not controlled. When it's high, you need to check every day until it normalizes. Okay, so that's something that I should note. A lot of people think you have to just check every day. No, it doesn't really work like that. And that is all I'm going to say. if anyone has any questions, I'm going to give about 1 minute for questions, and then we will wrap up. So I know I generally addressed most of the common questions people have actually, but yes, please, if there are any questions, you can either drop your question in the chat box online or in the WhatsApp group, and I will answer. I'm just going to wait about 1 minute because this conversation has actually been quite long. I didn't know that it would take me so long to go through 10 or 10 of these points. Um, okay, so well, I can't see any comments on the YouTube page, so I think that shows that everyone on YouTube understood me. And then on the WhatsApp group, I can't see any comments. So I think yeah, it's good. It's good. So with these few points of mine, I hope you now understand the factors to consider whenever you hear those common things. Oh, you will start depend. Oh, I forgot to mention that one. That if you start taking drugs, you will start depending on the drugs. No, the only situation in which you will start depending on drugs is if you don't start early. If you start early, by the time you get into your 50s or your 60s, when you're no more waiting, when you're no more waking up at 4 a.m. to run down to work, you are now sleeping, you have retired, you are sleeping well, you are well rested. You'd be surprised with just that change, with less stress, more rest. Your blood pressure can start to normalize even without you having to continue drugs. But if you don't start early, by the time you get to 60 and you want to rest, there's no amount of rest that will reverse it. The damage is done and the blood pressure won't come down. Okay, so it's important to put that in perspective. So correct anybody who says that. Correct them. That no, it's not like that. Okay. Thank you all so much. It's been great having everyone here. I hope this was beneficial to someone. Feel free to share. You can share the video. You can if you still have questions, you can drop them on the group anytime. Oh, I think someone is typing. Okay. Feel free to share. Yeah, oh, you're welcome. Feel free to share with your friends, your family members, just educate them. Okay, let's share the knowledge. And I will see you next week. I'm trying to decide on which topic to do next week. Oh, I think I've never even asked for this. Please, if you have topics that you feel I should talk about, okay, please let me know. You can drop in the comment section, or you can drop your suggestions on the WhatsApp group. If you have topics that you feel you want me to just really take some time to expound on, okay, feel free to drop them, and I will definitely look into those topics that will touch on the things that matter to people listening to me. Okay, I don't want to keep cooking topics from my head. Okay. Oh yeah, you're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. All right, so everybody have a calm week. Try not to stress yourself too much. Try and take it easy. Try not to push all your rest till the next weekend. Rest in between your works. As much as possible. A 15-minute nap can really go a long way. Rest your head a little bit. Just take it easy, then get back to work afterwards. Just find some balance. Okay, it's important. And when talking about blood pressure, you cannot wait till a particular special time to rest. You must regularize it. Let it be part of your day. Okay, and I will see you all next week. Everybody have a great week. Bye bye.